These children need your voice. Maybe the next generation in this nation, maybe the young people of this nation will have the courage where we were weak to be a bold opposition to this ongoing evil. Maybe they will. Maybe we will see a generation of people who are willing to lay down their lives for the gospel, who are willing to stand up in bold opposition to the evil of their age, who are willing to declare the crown rights of Jesus and declare emphatically and authoritatively to this culture of death, you shall stop killing our children. You shall stop murdering the innocent. God has said, thou shalt not murder. And yet, Christians in this nation tell the world when and how they can kill their children through incremental legislation that declares when, where, and how you can kill a child. We just passed one in Tennessee this year that says you can kill a child before they're 20 weeks in the womb. Familiar with the parable of the Good Samaritan, sir? Let's not be like the priest and the Levite, sir. Let's not cross over to the other side of the road. This is what God said. When God's people were practicing their religion, when God's people were practicing their sacrifices, when God's people were formulating in the temple, God's people were meeting in their synagogues, but yet God's people were practicing injustice and oppression, and they were neglecting justice, and they were oppressing the poor and needy. This is what God said to his people. God said, I despise your worship, and I do not want to hear your songs any longer, but let justice roll down as waters and righteousness as an ever-flowing stream. That is what God told his people. So in the midst of suffering, in the midst of oppression, in the midst of injustice, what God wanted was not songs. He didn't want dead religion. He didn't want a bunch of vain religious practices. He wanted justice. He wanted mercy. He wanted love for neighbor. This is what the Bible does say about pure and undefiled religion. Pure and undefiled religion before God the Father is this: to help orphans and to help widows in their time of affliction, and to keep oneself unspotted and unstained from the world. So we can know authoritatively and objectively that what God considers pure and undefiled religion is to help orphans and to help widows. Now, what does it look like in Tennessee? Well, in Tennessee, there are 4.5 church buildings. 4.5 churches for every one orphan awaiting adoption. That means that there are about 5 or 6 pastors for every orphan awaiting adoption. And that doesn't even count these orphans who are never born. That doesn't even count the 16,000 orphans that are murdered every single year under sanctioned law in Tennessee. Tennesseans, what does it look like to be a Christian in a world which kills its children? What does it look like to love God and to love neighbor in a world that hates God and that hates their neighbor to the point where they murder their neighbor? What should it look like in a world where there are churches on every street corner and yet this is the fruit of the land? What should it look like? Why is the world not opposed to the churches all around us? And why are the churches all around us not opposed to this world of death? How does this go on amongst a population of so many professing followers of Christ? Read the book of James. Faith, if it hath not works, is dead. Can we honestly say that we love God if we fail to love our neighbor? Can we honestly say that we are practicing true and undefiled religion when in fact the fruit of the land says that we're not? Can we honestly say that we're practicing true and undefiled religion when true and undefiled religion is to care for orphans and widows, and yet the fruit of the land is tons of orphans, and murdered ones at that. Whatever we're practicing, it is not pure before the sight of our God, and we all must repent. We all must flee from this life of self-indulgence. You have lived a life of wanton pleasure and luxury upon the earth. You have fattened your hearts in a day of slaughter. These are scriptures that you should know. These are scriptures that we as Christians, because I know that this area is full of professing followers of Christ. Let us not be like the priest and the Levite that crosses over to the other side of the road and leaves our neighbor for dead. But let us be like the Good Samaritan. Let us be like Jesus. Let us be willing to love God above all else and love our neighbor as ourselves. Let us be willing to lay down our own lives if need be. Let us be willing to lay down our lives of self-indulgence and pleasure. Let us be willing to lay down our sin at the cross of Jesus, and let us love our neighbor as ourselves, and let us rid this injustice from before his eyes. Today, this weekend, when we celebrate our independence from tyranny, and yet we are a nation of tyranny and a nation of injustice. How can we celebrate our independence when in our own nation our laws deprive other human beings of that independence? How can we call ourselves a nation of heroes, a nation under God, when in fact we are a nation at enmity with God? When in fact we are a nation full of cowards, full of hypocrites, full of people who profess to follow Christ, full of people who profess to love our neighbor, full of people who profess to love God, and yet the fruit of the land bears testament against us. And Jesus said this, "You will know them by their fruits." This is our fruit. This is what falls from our wicked tree. We are a nation of goats. We are a nation of cowards. We are a nation of hypocrites. We are a nation that does not follow our God. We are a nation that is at war and at enmity with God. We kill his image bearers every single day. And God has said that he hates the hands that shed innocent blood and feet that are quick to run to evil. For the sins of Manasseh, he said, he would not relent. What were the sins of Manasseh? That he would not relent against his own people, their judgment. What were the sins of Manasseh? The sins of Manasseh was that he killed his own children, that he passed his own children through the fire to Molech. We have shrines to Molech all over this nation. We sacrifice our own children on the altar of convenience. We parade it around as a woman's choice. We parade it around as freedom. Let's be honest. What is a woman's choice to do? To murder her child. Does man have the choice to commit crimes? Should crimes go unpunished? If tomorrow they started murdering pastors, would we rise up then? Would we finally see the pastors of our nation do something? Would we finally see them lead people into opposition to evil? Not once, not a single time, not a single instant in the state of Tennessee have we ever attempted to abolish this evil. Never once have we passed a single law. Never once have we even put forth a single law that would protect these innocents from murder. The only thing we've ever done in Tennessee is we have told the state when, where, and how they can kill their children. Christians have instructed and taught the state when, where, and how they can procure an assassin to rip apart their child. Christians have told people you need to wait 48 hours before you can pay an assassin to rip apart your child. In the parable of the Good Samaritan, I want you to ask yourself, who am I? Am I the priest? Am I the Levite? Or am I the Samaritan? Must I repent? Have I neglected justice and mercy? Have I lived a life that has ignored this slaughter? Sir, have you gotten one of these? These children aren't good, sir. I hear that a lot. People say, no, it's okay, I'm good. No, I'm good. But the fact is, these children are not good. The fact is, our nation is not good. And the fact is that we are sick. From the head of the foot to from the head to the sole of the foot, there is nothing but bruises, wounds, and putrefying sores. That's what Isaiah wrote about a nation such as ours. That we are a sick nation. A nation full and laden with iniquity, meaning lawlessness. Yet what do we care about? What are we concerned about? Today we celebrate our independence from tyranny, and yet we practice tyranny.